Goeiemorgen, good morning, Sawubona, bonjour, kumasta. In this video tutorial, I will show you how to make a rather quick and very beginner-friendly candy cane as a decoration. You can use it to decorate your tree, or you can make a huge one and decorate it anywhere else in your house. In order to make these candy canes, you will need yarn. I'm using Chic double knit. It's a pure acrylic yarn, color 00 white, and I'm also using color 169 cherry red. You can use any yarn you like, any yarn thickness you like. Adjust the hook size according to the yarn. Even though double knit acrylic recommends a 4mm crochet hook, for this pattern we will use a 4.5mm crochet hook. You will also need something with which to cut, a yarn needle to work in the ends, and then something that can bend. I usually use pipe cleaners, which you can get in many craft shops in very many different sizes and colors. But you could also use something like a bendy straw, since they can give the required bend. Of course, if you're making a hugely big candy cane, then you'll need something a little bit bigger than pipe cleaners, maybe some other craft wire. In order to crochet the candy canes, you will need to know how to make a chain stitch, how to make a treble crochet. That's all the skills you need. Please note that when I crochet, I use UK terminology, but when I remember, I will mention the US equivalent and of course Afrikaans. To make the candy canes, we will crochet two separate curly cues, one white, one red. In this tutorial, I will show you how to do that, but I will go over it rather quickly. If you need maybe a more detailed explanation or a slower pace, I have a separate video dedicated just to curly cues. Then we will combine the two curly cues together into a red and white striped shape. And lastly, insert the structural support to give it the required bend, because by itself it won't stay bent. So let's start with the red curly cue. Attach the yarn to your hook in whichever method you prefer. I make a slip knot. Then chain 42. To make a chain stitch, the loop on the hook does not count as a stitch. Yarn around hook and pull the hook through the loop that was currently on the hook, so that there's a new loop on the hook. That is one chain stitch made. Continue and make 42. 1, 2, 3, 39, 40, 41, 42. This may seem very long, but when you make the curly cue, it curls up into itself. This was also a chain of 42 with the same size hook and the same yarn weight, and you can see that the end result is much shorter than the original chain. For row 1, which is the only row, we will skip the first 2 chain stitches, and into the third chain from hook we will make 3 treble crochets. To make a treble crochet, the loop on the hook does not count as a stitch. Yarn over, insert into that chain stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. You have 3 loops on hook, yarn over, pull through 2, so that you have 2 loops on hook, yarn over, pull through both, and you have completed 1 treble crochet in UK terms. In the US, this is known as a double crochet, in Afrikaans a long binkie. Now make 1 more treble into that same place, and again 1 more. So you have a total of 3 trebles into the same chain stitch. Making the 3 trebles into the 1 chain stitch pulls on that chain stitch and makes the one before it look smaller. And don't worry, it won't look like this ugly gaping hole all the way. You won't be able to see it in the final product. Just make sure that you don't accidentally skip chains when the chain you've already worked in pulls the other unworked chains too tightly. Now yarn over and again make 3 trebles into the next chain. 1, 2, oops, 3. Continue this for all the chains until the very first chain that we've made. 3 treble crochets into every chain. And I'll see you at the end when I'm done with all my many trebles. I'm almost at the end of the row. There is one more chain to work into. Since we chained 42 and we skipped the first 2 chains, it means that there are 40 chains left in which we worked, and we've made 3 treble crochets into each one of them. So there will be a total of 120 treble crochets in the curly Q. I've completed those last 3 stitches into the last chain, and now it's time to fasten off. You can fasten off in whichever method you prefer. I chain 2, leave a length of yarn, cut, draw up the loop, pinch those tight and pull, and that forms a knot, so my crochet work will not become undone. Using the white yarn, do exactly the same. Attach your yarn to your hook, go back to making 42 chain stitches, and then working treble crochets into all of them. I'll see you at the end of that. Now it's time to put it all together. Take your 2 curly Qs and find the starting point. Simply put them together and then curl them up so they curl together in the same direction. Try to keep the tension of the two the same, so the one doesn't pull tighter than the other does. Since we've made the same number of chains and we've made the same number of stitches, they should be of equal length. But sometimes when you do this, the one ends up looking shorter than the other one. If the gap here at the end is too much, then just go back and make sure that you actually have the same tension throughout. You don't have, see the radii speaking out more and less white, and so that will change the tension throughout until you have one combined stripe column. It's up to you whether you want to work in these yarn beginnings and ends or leave them in some way. In the usually in curly Qs I leave them as a fringe, but for the candy cane that does not, there's no good way of it. Yeah, I couldn't find a way that it looks good. So just work in the yarn ends whichever way you like. Save all your yarn ends in your stuffing bag. Maybe the yarn ends should be worked in before you curl them together. Next, we need to add the structural support. The pipe cleaner I'm using is slightly shorter than the total striped candy cane. Of course, I can use a bigger pipe cleaner and just cut off the excess, but the part of the candy cane that needs a structure is the bend at the top. And if it hangs from there, the part at the bottom is just like hanging, you know, gravity should keep it straight. So for using it as a tree decoration, you don't really need something the length of the entire candy cane, but you can if you want to. So now, because the top is the more important part, that is where we finished working, not the bottom end, because they already form a natural, because of the 2 chain stitches as a turning chain, they already form naturally a nice looking point. I insert the top of the pipe cleaner through the first 2 stitches and just bend it slightly so that it can stay there, and then twist the double-twisted double helix all around. The pipe cleaner might run out before you're at the end of the curly Q. Well, this one is coming pretty close. Pull together, adjust, and then the wire inside the pipe cleaner you can bend until you have a candy cane that suits your liking. Thank you for watching. Now go make some sugar-free candy canes. Don't tell that, people will get excited that they will be able to eat it, and that's not going to work. And until next time, have fun crafting.